Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever it is that you're watching us from. Welcome to the Global Unites webinar series. This is the first of the year, 2021, and looking forward to hosting even more amazing conversations. Um, I am your host today. My name is Elise Pascaline from Kenya Unites, and with me today is a very vibrant and dynamic group of young leaders uh, who are peace and change agents in their communities and in their countries in their own way. And today we'll be discussing leadership in the midst of a national crisis. We are at a point where in most countries around the world are going through some challenges and so much is going on. And today we will be seeing how we as leaders can rise to the occasion and lead, how we as leaders can be change agents and can promote positive and sustainable change, peace, and development. So without further ado, I'll allow my panelists to introduce themselves. We will start with you, Robin, and then we will go with Juan and then Henry, kindly.
Thank you so much, Alice. Well, as you said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and namaste to all of you. I am Robin Nimbang, National Communication Coordinator from Nepal Unites. Well, I wouldn't be prolonging it so much. I guess now it's up to Henry, I guess.
Okay, no, it's now Juan.
Yes, thank you, Ellie. And also, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. And thank you, Global Unites, for inviting me to as a panelist for this webinar. My name is Muan Ching, and I'll be speaking and discussing as Myanmar Unites representative on what's happening in Myanmar. And I'm also the fellow delegate of the Global Unite Summit 2019 held in Kenya. And for me, it's my honor to speak as a panelist and to discuss with my senior founding leaders of fellow Unites. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan. Yes, Henry.
Thank you very much, and greetings from Kampala. My name is Henry Kasacha. I work with the Dialogue and Democracy Training Center, and my work basically is a democracy support, training, and facilitating. I've worked a lot with young people, and I continue working with them. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is going to be an amazing conversation, such an amazing conversation. So to our viewers from wherever you are, please feel free to leave any questions, any comments on the discussion, and let's keep our panelists engaged, Yeah, so without further ado, let me start with the questions. I think we will all answer this question. What is the current challenge or what crisis is your country facing at this time with regards to democracy? Let's start with Henry, vice versa again. Let's start with Henry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have just come out of an election, and it has been contested, and it is being challenged in court. And it has also come with a number of challenges, but basically our challenges have resolved around the democratic questions and the purpose of elections, whether elections really are a representation of the views of the people, and how the whole process is run and managed to ensure that the people can be able to exercise their choices freely. So that has been one of the critical issues. Of course, COVID is another big challenge that is facing the country, and not only being that it is a threat to life and the economy, but it is also being looked at as a rolling back on democracy. Because before we went into the elections, we had just started on a roadmap, and then COVID broke out, and we had the lockdown measures and social distancing and all these other measures that were introduced to contain the pandemic. But over the months, COVID has been politicized, and that also becomes a very big challenge. That to some in the opposition, they think that COVID is being used to create undue advantage for the ruling government. And of course, it has also come up with corruption, and that continues to be a serious problem. As the economy continues biting, many people are beginning to question whether we should be in a lockdown or we should lift all the lockdown. The schools are still closed and government is trying to open them in phases. That has also become another pressure point in terms of political debate. The other big challenge that we face as a country at this particular time is what is the route that Uganda can use to extend democracy, to cause political change, or to consolidate our democracy. There are various scenarios that are playing at the moment, and this is reflected in all the political developments that we are seeing. Well, there is a serious concern. The developments from elsewhere, like Sudan lately, where people have had an uprising and have seen the government changing, have inspired some people in this country. And they believe that could be one route that people could take, and there could be an uprising. And there's also all sorts of efforts to contain such uprisings, purposely, mainly because the current government looks at that as not as a people's uprising, but as a foreign instigated kind of activity. So that has also brought in a lot of issues to do with human rights. A number of people are being kidnapped and disappearing, and there's all sorts of human rights issues. So broadly, the current challenges in the country now resolve around the contested election process. Secondly, the management of COVID, and of course, the young people. Uganda has a very high percentage of young people, and they are being inspired now to join politics. They are being inspired to become active. And the biggest challenge is, to what extent are they going to become democratic players in this country? Or are they going to be manipulated into forming violent groups? Or are they going to be manipulated into using their energy to just confront the state? Are they going to be inspired simply to stand up and do anything? So the manner in which young people are getting involved in our politics is an issue that is something of serious concern, because the numbers are huge. Out of the elections, so many young people have been returned as elected leaders. Many are taking up leadership for the very first time. They have never been in any district council. They have never held any position. And some have even gone up to parliament without any kind of leadership kind of orientation. So we are likely to have a challenge in terms of how far we can go in appreciating the challenges we have, but also how do we guide the consolidation of the democratic achievements Uganda has made over the time. I think I'll leave it at that for the start.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Indeed, there's so many challenges, and I concur with you. Some of the challenges that Uganda is facing are the same as some of them are being faced in Kenya as well. And I feel like it's also going to be the same with Myanmar and Nepal and even Congo. But let's listen to them. Moan, maybe you can share with us what are the challenges happening in your country in terms of democracy. What crisis are you facing?
Yes. Thank you for the time, Alice. As everyone know, we the world share a common crisis, the global pandemic, coronavirus. But what is different from us is Myanmar has a very serious political crisis, because from 1st February 2021, the Myanmar military detained our the ruling country leaders, including Aung San Suu Kyi, and also political activists and officials. So that's the serious crisis, and they just announced that they will hold onto power for 1 year, and it's unimaginable. And the reason that we the election, the 2020 election, we everyone already organized as free and fair. The military just accused us the fraudulent one, so they seized the power. So that's the crisis. So the situation is exactly the situation is, since day one of the coup, they cut off phone lines, internet line, and also state-run broadcasting channel, except fiber internet, Wi-Fi lines that they can control. And they legitimately from the council, the ruling council by themselves, and also they give they freed prisoners and let them use for purposes, just like they did for the previous 1988 military coup in Myanmar. They are practicing the similar methods and situations, and they also curfew orders, like no one can go outside during 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. like the very previous day of 1988. And there are also a law that allow military and police force to arrest people and to search people without warrants. And the gender also proposed like a stupid cybersecurity law that that would ruin telecommunication and digital services in Myanmar. Started from 3 days ago, they cut off internet for the period from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. so that Myanmar to be in the dark again, like North Korea. The situation is this. And regarding to anti-coup protests, anti-coup street protests, they are even using rubber bullets and water cannons, tear gas, grenade, and there's even a girl who died with shot in head with rubber bullet. And more than 100 gunshots were fired in a place of indigenous people, the so-called Kachin state of Myanmar. And the police are kidnapping anti-coup protest activists and also members of the Union Election Commission almost every night, because because they can't accept the election result of the previous 2020 election. So they just seize the coup, and that's a serious political crisis of our country. Yeah, that's all about it. Thank you.
That's a lot. Are you guys
Yeah.
okay?
Hope it's still okay, but
Hang in there, hang in there. Indeed, there is a crisis in Myanmar. There is a serious crisis. Robin, what's happening in your country?
Well, first of all, I would like to say, wow, one, you guys are really going through hard times, and I just pray all of you that everything, whatever you was there going through, must just come to end very soon, and hope for the better days to come for all of you guys. Let's pray for the Myanmar as well, because like it's something very difficult thing. Coming to my own story, well, I heard both of our panelists' story and the situation in their country. But I guess listening to them, I think we're standing on a better chance. The situation is not that much, difficult, or let's say that much critical here. But with that being said, it's not that we are going through all, rosy and flowers. It's very something different, because like you see, constitutionally, our country Nepal does adopt, like a mixed economic system that is not entirely it's capitalist nor it's communist. But you see the power, the political party that is in government right now, it is called CPN UNL, or prior it was UNL, now it is CPN, that is Communist Party of Nepal. So ideologically, ideally they call themselves as communist, but at the same time they try to adopt some of the capitalist nature. So in that way, I guess we are standing on a better chance. We are not going through that sort of dictator, or let's say military core, everything else. But as we all know that we just been through some sort of global pandemic called coronavirus 2019, COVID 2019, and in that procedure, I guess it totally is just it was something like it just left us devastated. We all were like hundreds and thousands of people became jobless, and like in our country, where we just most of the youth especially go for the foreign employment, especially in the Middle East, or those the trend of migration here in our country is that, for example, you're from rural areas, then you pursue your higher education in the cities, and those who are inborn in the cities, or let's say the local residents of cities, they always aim or opt, or let's say go a dream for going to the abroad in terms of study or making their career better. So in that way, there's always a strong flow of people. There's always continuous migration from rural areas to urban areas, and from urban areas, the cities areas to another developed countries. I guess that's almost everywhere. The case is similar in terms of a developed nation. But what is really different in Nepal's case is that our country is really going through political instability. It is because during that decade, within the time period of like 70 years, within the period of 7 decades, we have literally changed 7 constitution. Now you guys can imagine how much the level of the degree of political instability in our countries when party comes and they try to bring reformation according to their own way, but sadly that couldn't satisfy the desire, or let's say the aspirations of the normal people living in the country. And at the same time, another party took over the political power, and then they try to bring the reformation. But everything, like they try to say that they're changing so many things, but nothing changes on. And the biggest problem here in our country is that even though we are Federal Democratic Republic of Nepal, but I guess ideally we are democratic, but when a lot of time, a lot of thing comes, it try to show that we are really need to go so far to come out of our shell and to bring change and reformation in terms of youth leadership, in terms of gender issues, and so many things. Well, I would like to shed a little bit of light regarding the youth leadership here in our country. The biggest problem here in our country is that our country hardly recognizes youth leadership. It is because they believe that you have a less strong experience. Obviously, if you wanted to hold something a powerful position, you need to have the experience. But at the same time, it's not that whenever the time comes to give a chance to somebody leader, or let's say the young leader, they always try to show cynical behavior. They never trust you. And even if you wanted to make up to that position, either you need to go through some political channeling, a channel to back channel diplomacy, or some sort of personal relationship. Because well, I have to say, sadly, there is a chance that there's a condition that we all are going through. This is some sort of king and kid sort of scenario, and then you have to be someone very closer to be into that influential position to bring the reformation in the system. So that has been practiced from a very long period of time here in our country. Because of that, even if you try to bring in change, you have to be into that position, and if you wanted to be into that position, you always have to go through it, not from the something ideal way or something the legal way, rather some sort of convoluted way has to be adopted to be there. So that is the biggest issue, I guess. Even though like in democracy, we know that there has to be people's representation, there has to be fair election, there has to be open. People should come forward and then try to. At least they need to have that sort of freedom and choice to select their leader. And even though ideally we are not just democracy, but we are the federal republic country. But despite of the republic, I guess we have to still there's people do not trust you. If you have to be into that power, either you have to be some sort of connections, you need to know somebody political leader out there, or then you could make your position or chance out to there. So because of that, whoever goes, either they are not capable, or even if they are capable, the around circumstances would never let them to do according to their capability. And because of that, even though you try to bring in some reformation, you just feel like some sort of you have to hunch back because there's not sort of appropriate situation. And sadly, this COVID-19 has even worsened the case more, because like lots of people have become they have become like jobless because of that. So many people are losing hope on their life, and they have to make on their daily expenses. I've already told people are living in the rented flat or somewhere in this urban city, and because of that, since they have lost their job, now it has become so difficult for them to meet their daily expenses. And at first and foremost thing, people try to meet up their daily basic needs, but because of the lower income, or let's say people are not even earning on, and the rate of unemployment has like, it has grown up so fast, like hundreds and 100 times more than the prior situation and like the prior condition there in the country. Because of that, even though we try to talk about democracy, we try to talk about bringing the new ideas. Now, I guess people are really losing on the hope. And on top of that, if we talk about the political condition, now their current prime minister, is the incumbent prime minister of our country, KP Sharma Oli, has tried to dissolve the parliament and try to bring in his own people, just because the people in the actually what had happened was there were previously two different parties, and just to get the majority, they come together and made form one party. But now those people who came from another party, and also the people who were already in his party, they try to oppose his idea because they consider that his own ideas are not progressive, or let's say not according to the political manifesto of their own political party. They try to oppose him. But because of that, now what did our current prime minister did is he tried to dissolve the entire thing, and then try to bring in the people who support his mandate, or who try to suppose him. Basically, you can say that he tried to bring in somebody, the yes man type of yes man, who would always say yes over his nodding down their head over his every commandment speak, like on the betterment of the country, or be it beneficial to the people or not. He just wants someone to follow him blindly. It's something that he's not trying to create he's not even practicing something democracy. Rather, he wants someone to be, the disciple, I would say, or someone that devoted leaders for that set aside. So maybe because of that thing, even though we are saying that we are practicing democracy, but because of that, it's like the situation is so very pathetic. And what I feel so bad is that so many people are losing hope for their life because of one at once. Even though those people are who really wanted to sit back in the country, as I already told you, that there's a trend of migration from our rural area to urban area, and urban area to the developed countries. Even though those people who are really patriotic and would like to work and serve for the country, now they are losing hope because of this unstable political condition. Because who on earth would like to stay in the country there is like no proper hope? Everybody, they try to think about themselves, at least if not then their children. So because of that, so many people are like, I believe that now, according to me, I guess most of the youths are still in a dilemma, and there is no proper way. Even the government is not trying to bring in something reformation, or let's say something encouraging plans and incentive for the youth, which would help them to engage within the country, because the government itself is so busy within this putting up chair again. So that is what the situation here out here in the country, and because of that, people never trust the youth leaders. So I guess I try to to reflect the condition. I don't know how much it is clear to you, but that's all the situation is.
That
Thank
was
you.
very elaborate. Thank you so much, Robin. Now we have Espoir. Hi, Espoir. Please kindly
Hi.
introduce yourself to our viewers, and then dive into the questions, because you found us in the middle. Tell us, what challenge is your country facing right now? What is the crisis in terms of democracy that your country is facing at this moment?
Hello, everyone. My name is Espoir. Espoir is a French name, which means hope. My name is Espoir Ngalukie. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I live in Goma City, which is in east part of DRC. I'm a community organizer and a pro-democracy activist within a social movement, which is called La Lucha. It's a French which means we can translate by fight for change. we usually organizing we usually organize public demonstrations calling for peace, for democracy, and for good governance. And the situation of DRC is like the same around the world, but the majority of Congolese are not trusting Congolese leaders who are putting in Congo the decisions which are the same like decision which were taken in France, in Italy. Congolese political leaders are doing the same thing, and the context and the reality, they are not the same. As myself and other friends, we every Sunday we are organizing activities within Goma Active, we are mobilizing people to respect and to be careful within against COVID, and we are doing for free. We are not paid to do that. And as I said before, the situation of the democracy is bad when people are not trusting leaders, and in the situation currently in Congo. I have to give you just some examples. The first one is when political leaders took the decision to stop universities activities, to stop activities of students, activities of pupils. It means high school and primary school, and they took the same decisions to say no to all public demonstrations. But at the same time, church, they are free to organize their activities, and nightclub are free to organize their activities too. And for us, we said we cannot accept that because it's not normal to be in the country where COVID exists for real, but leaders are taking decisions. They are copying decisions from France, from Italy, from Spain, from other countries, and they are doing the same decisions in our country. And at that time, people are free to claim their rights. People are free to show their opinion in public area and everywhere. But when leaders said no to public demonstrations, the reason for them was we have to fight against COVID. At the same time, church, markets, and parties, rooms, they are free to organize their activities. We said, no, we have to organize our public demonstrations. And we have friends who were arrested in Beni, friends who were tortured in Kananga, they are cities of Congo. Even last year, we lost one of our friends. He was killed by the Congolese police when we were organizing a public demonstrations. Because for us, we need to have peace, we need to have good democracy, and the only manner to claim that is to organize public demonstrations and non-violent activities. The current situation of the democracy in Congo, it have many area, because as we are talking about COVID, I prefer to be focused on the COVID area only, because COVID obliged Congolese leaders to take decisions, even bad decisions. And for us, we cannot accept, uh, we, we cannot respect bad decisions, because we have our realities in Congo. We have even the number of people who were contaminated by COVID. They, it's very less than the number of people contaminated in other countries. And that's why in Congo, we are organizing, we are calling people to respect measure, to respect, to be careful, to fight against COVID, because COVID is our problem for all of us. And people who are not trusting the existence of COVID, we are telling them, okay, if you are not trusting, protect protect your friends. And if you trust that COVID exists, protect yourself. If you don't trust that COVID exists, protect your friends, protect your brothers, your sisters, and just to respect measures. And for now, we are planning other public demonstrations. And last week, we were claiming to have universities activities. They have to be opened, and political leaders, they understood what we are claiming, and they said on Monday, universities activities will open, and that's why we have to continue our fight, because if we don't fight, we'll not have anything, even today, even tomorrow. And COVID cannot be an excuse to political leaders to take bad decisions. They have to take good decisions which can solve problems of Congolese citizens, which can solve problem of governance. But they can't use COVID as an excuse to take bad decisions. This is the current situation in Congo. And in Congo, we have 26 provinces, and all those 26 provinces are not don't have COVID cases. The majority of them doesn't have COVID cases. And decisions which are adaptable in provinces which are we have cases of COVID, they cannot be the same decision in provinces where we don't have COVID cases.
Thank you very much, Espoir. Indeed, like your name says it, you are a hope
Yeah.
to the Congolese people, to the young leaders in Congo. Keep doing an amazing job.
Thank you
Now,
so
if
much.
I may go into the next question, I think we're running out of time. Henry, let me ask you, do you see there being a risk of violence escalating, especially at this time? And if so, how can young people committed to peaceful engagements meaningfully engage at this time to end the cycle of violence? Sorry, you're muted.
Okay, I think I'm now live.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think that the risks of violence are still up and high. And also the efforts and the intentions of containing this violence are extremely very high. That means that anybody who dares to become violent is likely to face the full force of the law and the full force of the state. So I think that there is excitement, there has been inspiration. People believe what they have seen elsewhere can happen here. After all, they have done it elsewhere. So the idea of standing up and protesting is very high. In Uganda, the biggest challenge is that we have not yet had the opportunity of having a peaceful protest. Many protests end up becoming violent and they end up becoming riots. And that gives the state all the excuses of clamping down on all these so-called peaceful protesters with the full force of the law. And many of these rights have not been respected and upheld, largely because eventually what starts as a peaceful protest degenerates into a violent kind of conduct. If you just look at the last protest we had around election times in November, what started as a peaceful protest eventually became a venting of frustration that people began blocking roads, they began hitting others, they began looting. So the chances of any protests starting in Uganda are extremely not very high because they are likely to be suppressed purposely because the manner in which these protests unfold calls for the state to act the way it does. So chances are that they will be suppressed. So I think that one of the most important things that we have to focus on is how do we empower people to participate democratically. I think that is the biggest challenge. As many people try to stand up, Uganda has a history of violence, and our constitution has provided for violence if somebody is protecting the constitution. But if you are trying to advance your political objectives, the space for violence is not there. Now, in a country where people have not got that orientation of a democratic process, even when how to show your displeasure without degenerating into violent conduct becomes a very serious problem. Now, with the history of this country, any tendency towards violent conduct, violent behavior, is likely to face the full force of the law and the full force of the state. So chances are that we may not have full-fledged violence at the moment, because fear is also another big factor. The manner in which these protests are put down is extremely high, that it creates fear among others to start any kind of protests. We have had a law called the Public Order Management Law, which gave police powers to authorize and allow public protests. Now, for the last 5 years, many of the activities that have been organized by the political opposition and any other activists have been blocked and have ended in confrontations, to an extent that people can no longer attend a public meeting unless they have heard it from the police spokesman that it is allowed. So eventually, the manner in which the protests are being broken down has created fear among many other people, that they do not even consider their rights, because they have seen, yes, you have rights, but the police has the power to stop you. So eventually, many people begin withdrawing, and that's also another challenge in terms of how people are going to stand up, how people are going to speak out and organize. So the chances of violence are low, because the state is very strong at the moment, and it has what it takes to put down any form of protests and riotous behavior. I don't think, secondly, is that I don't think there is any political group in Uganda that has now concentrated on using violence. I think the people of Uganda have largely rejected violence as a means of reaching political objectives. No political leader can mobilize them into violence. They could have some kind of riotous behavior, but that does not translate into violent conduct. That does not translate into holding arms. That does not translate into fighting the police. Even in the cases where we have had the people confronting the police, you have not seen direct expressions of violent conduct on behalf of the population. I mean, people would wish to destroy property, they would wish to throw some stones here and there, but they will not go into an extent that we have now ready for a violent kind of engagement. So I think that's just another challenge, that violence may not escalate, but if there is a process, because one of the things that is happening right now, which is also highly debated in the country, is a possibility of trying to have popular protests as a means towards political change. I mean, when in Africa, we have seen political change coming from various, coming from popular protests. And this appears to be a trend that people want to adopt, especially if they believe that the regime is so entrenched that it cannot be defeated in a democratic process. If they organize an election, they will steal the election. If they go to parliament, they will pass their laws. If they do this, so there has been a growing thinking that you just mobilize the people to stand up and say enough is enough. Now that kind of thinking cannot have space, because many Ugandans are not interested and are not ready to be part of this confrontation. So you could have a few riotous behavior, but it may not tantamount into people standing up and causing the regime change. So I think that violence in Uganda, we may have more pockets, but the biggest challenge is that the measures that are being used to contain this riotous behavior are taking on human rights. So many people's rights are being curtailed. At the moment, like I said earlier on, people are being arrested, they're being kidnapped, people are claiming missing persons. Whoever is suspected of trying to be part of that kind of thinking, the state will find interest in you and they will pick you either for interrogation or whatever it happens. So that is also another challenge that we are likely to face. So in the short term, I don't think that violence is likely to continue in this country. I think the people are increasingly becoming more democratic. Ugandans are becoming more democratic. If you look at the last elections, there were no cases of serious violence from people to people. I mean, the violence you have had in elections previously is you could have people from one political party attacking another political party. But this has not happened this time. This time around, the violence has been either from the state to specific presidential candidates. So I think by and large, in terms of democratic culture, there is growing democratic culture among the people. And if you look at the turn up and how people came up to vote, you could see that many had embraced this process of voting. So the current process of challenging the elections in court are also another kind of venting process So I do not think that violence is likely to increase in Uganda. I think by and large, we are likely to be slowly but gradually moving towards a democratic culture.
Thank you for that, Henry. Now, Robin, on to the next question. You said that in Nepal, they hardly recognize youth leaders, right? Now, I don't know. In your context, have you come across some positive models of youth engagement in your country that have happened recently, or maybe even in the past?
Well, thank you for the question, Elise. Yeah, actually, you just pointed out a very right question, and I was really wanting to answer this question. The thing is that as you know, I just told you about the political conditions, the instability happening here in our country right now, and you need that the man in the power, KP Sharma Oli, our incumbent prime minister, try to show the power that how many followers he has got recently by organizing a rally, a political rally, and then he called for almost like 100,000 people from across the nation to engage in that rally. And and the members which were already in his team, the another leader which we call Pushpa Kamal Dahal, that is Prachanda, one of the main leaders, the one who just initiated the Maoist insurgents here in our country, and now sharing the power with him. He just told that he also called for another protest, just trying to call up every members who supports him from the entire country. But to contrary of our expectations, and then from the in comparison to the past events and the experiences that we had got previously, we used to see so many youths being part of that. But this time, youth were not taking part. Rather, the children and the women and the elderly people were called for, because the leaders were not supporting them, and especially the youth, the people of youthhood, or let's say the young people like us, were not being part of that rally, because now young people have already understood that no one is going to work for you unless you start to bring in, or like try to work for yourself to bring in the change. So that was the case. Now, in that context, I personally believe that now people are being more empowered. Now they are trying to understand the entire politics, and also try not to come into the snares, or let's say the instigation of the political party just to fulfill their vested interest. So maybe onto that part, people, especially the young leaders, they rejected the rally, and then whenever the strike used to call in for the country, people used to stay inside their homes supporting the protest. But this time, people, whoever, they used to commute to their daily work, they just came out of that, they come out of their houses, and even lots of the educational institutes were not stopped on against, like contrary to the demand of that political party. Now this symbolizes that people are trying to come forward and then try to do what is correct, not what is ordered or what is commanded. Now this also can be seen as some sort of radical change. So in that context, people now, prior, they used to think that no matter how old you are, or no matter how stronger the other person is, unless you have political right or political power, now you are the almighty. That sort of perception that people used to have. Because of that, especially the leaders used to have, because of that, the leader never used to trust in the youth force or the young leaders, and they try to reject, or try to snub, or not try to recognize the youth leadership. But because of this recent incident, now since so many people, randomly coming from the normal background, from the regular background, not belonging to any particular organization or religious background, or let's say any political party, they come and then they call and they try to educate the people that we shouldn't be coming into this, false. Let's say the false hopes or the aspirations that the political leaders are trying to show us. So they educated the people. Because of that, now people became more aware, and that on that entire process, the social media thing and this internet thing also helps so much. So maybe because of that, now I guess with this recent incident, I guess now political leaders have understood the importance of youth leaders also, and I guess they have, there's some sort of realization inside their heart that if we really wanted to bring in the change or try to collect or win the verdict of people, we really need to, go along with the youth leaders, not just ourselves. So maybe I guess because of that thing, the scenario has been changing on, and now I guess people are at least started. No, I don't say that's like a drastic change or something like overnight change, but still some sort of positivity, or let's say a ray of hope has been seen into this sort of prolonged tradition of not believing in the youth leader. So that is it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Robin. That I think that is on point, right? I hope all of you can agree with me. Moan and Espoir, I need you to answer me this question in just a few words. In just a few words. Why do you think preserving and protecting democracy is important in your nations, and also for those who are listening to you? Why do you think that preserving and protecting democracy is important? In just a
Yeah,
few words.
like in Congo, in Africa, around the world, there is no development, there is no peace without democracy. Democracy is the key of the good governance. And we cannot have good governance without people who is more claiming. And we cannot have accountable leaders without people who are more demanding and without democracy. If we have a good democracy, it means that we'll have accountable leaders, and accountable leaders, the consequence will be they will develop our country, they will give us peace, they will give us everything we need, and we have to be free. And this is the key of not only of Congo, but around the world. And even if we have a health crisis, it's concerned all of us. We have to protect ourselves and to protect people. But if political leaders are taking bad decisions, we are not obliged to respect them. And we are people, we are boss. We cannot accept all decisions. If they are, but if there are bad decisions, we have to explain them that it's a bad decision. And if it's a good decision, we have to explain them. And this is what I can say about your question. And we have to use non-violence. Never use violence, because if we try to use violence, we'll be the victim. The monopoly of using violence is just for the state, for the government.
Thank you, Espoir. Moan?
Welcome.
Yes. For me, preserving democracy is really important because for me, for our country, we've been through martial law for many, many years, but starting from 2015, we are ruled by the civilian government, and start the taste of real democracy. So, but our democracy is really, really, short term, and how can I say, it was fragile. So when the military coup happened, it just automatically almost appears. So preserving democracy is really, really important. So not only in my country, I want every fellow country to preserve to be take care of your country's democracy. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mon and Espoir. And indeed, we have seen this. We have seen this over the years. We've seen this just recently, how democracy is fragile. And it is our duty as young leaders to preserve it and to protect it. Like Espoir said, for us to have good governance, for us to have accountability, we need to protect our democracy. It has to go hand in hand. There is no way we can have good leadership and then have a democracy that is not working. So let's try our level best as young leaders to continue protecting and preserving our
Hello? Hello?
You have a flow, guy. it look like she have she has a problem of network.
Connection?
Yeah,
I
you
think
mean
so.
it look.
Robin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so it's at her point.
So as we are at the end, can you guys please give your conclusions, please? Because we
Yes.
are at the end. We
So
can
let
start
me
with
just
the guy of
ask you
Nepal.
the final question, and maybe all the panelists can share their thoughts on this. That is, in the midst of a crisis, like how do you encourage young people to continue to work, and also like, you know, they may be feeling like hopeless, but in these situations that you're facing in your country, how do you kind of continue to encourage them to do the right thing, and also contribute to your country's uh, yeah uh, uh, so in summary, for concluding remarks, if you can just tell us how you would like to continue to encourage young people in your country to do the right thing and continue to work towards upkeeping democracy in your nations, even though they may be feeling hopeless right now.
Who is going first?
I'll go first.
Yes, it's okay.
Yes, please.
All right, let me
Sorry
go
for that.
first. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I
we
can
can.
hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that under the current crisis that we face as a country and as a world, many young people have to be encouraged, and they have to be convinced that the problems we are having in the world today are because of the breakdown of democracy. Problems that we are facing today are because of lack of democratic values on the part of those who hold power and those who want power. And I think that the most important thing is that sometimes some of these violations can be so tempting that people tend to fall off the democratic path. I think that young people must be encouraged to stay on the democratic path, no matter the challenges. I think that that is the biggest contribution that we can make at the moment. The fact that the world is increasingly young, the more young people believe in democracy, chances are that it will translate into political accountability, and it will translate into building institutions. Many of the challenges we have where we have very weak institutions is because we have not nurtured democratic conduct and democratic values. Many people still want to operate outside the democratic institutions. So I think that the biggest contribution we can make to young people is to maintain the democratic orientation of young people, to ensure that young people can get involved, and they must be aware that participation in governance is precisely through, the means are important as a destination. In Uganda, I will use Uganda as an example. Many people believe that the means are so important. If you use undemocratic means to capture democratic power, you will hold it undemocratically. And that's the biggest challenge that we are facing. Eventually, you need another liberation to liberate people from the liberators. So what young people have to do and to learn is we have to encourage them to maintain the democratic path in any form of political engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Henry. Espoir, will you go next?
So, what I have to say I have to encourage people, young people, to continue to fight, to claim their rights, because we cannot lose our freedom. And I'm encouraging all people around the world, all young people around the world, to stand when there are bad decisions, to say no. We cannot lose our democracy. We cannot lose our freedom. We cannot lose our health, because if political leaders want power, they'll do all things they want to stay in power. And all those who want power, they'll do everything to get to have power. But as we are people, we have to stay in peaceful. And I'm encouraging people from Myanmar to stand up and to continue to claim the freedom, to claim the democracy. And this is the key of the development, not only in Myanmar, but in all the countries, in Congo, in Africa, in Asia. We have to claim, we have to stand up and to use non-violence. Never use violence. If we try to use violence, we'll be losers.
True. Thank you very much, Espoir. Robin, please.
Wow, that was really encouraging, Esper. And I have to say, since your name is, I guess, it's in Spanish, and you said it's hope, I really wanted to say animo in Spanish. So let's animo for your words. Okay, coming to the questions answered. I guess I guess we Nepal Unites as a chapter of Global Unites always believe in the slogan of action speaks louder than words. So in that sense, I believe we the Nepal Unites member and whoever we are in the to do our level best in terms of helping people from our side the best way possible to come out of the any sort of problems during this crisis time. So for that purpose, in order to establish or in order to lessen the violence, we organize so many thematic workshops, and still we are going to organize that in this week also. So but at past times, I mean, like during this month or over some months ago in September, we just did gender violence leadership thematic workshop, and then again we are going to organize another thematic workshop on regarding human rights issue that is that is in this next week, falling in this next week from 24th to 28th of February this month. And not just that, as I've already said, even though our country hardly recognizes youth leaders, but we are trying our hard to prove ourselves the credibility, because if you try to go out of this battlefield, then you're definitely a loser. But if you try to fight till the last bit with a fiber of every fiber of your being, at least you'll try to change in the systems. And if not, you could be able to bring in the change, but at least you'll be able to bring some sort of positivity into people's heart. So that's what we are trying to do. And even though our organization do not have any sort of fund, actually in Nepal there is there's a preoccupied concept that if you're NGO or INGO, you gotta have some lofty amount of money getting at the donations from other organizations. So they just try to they just try to perceive your thinking in that way. So even though we try to approach to any other team or any other group or any other people or organization to come and work with us in collaboration, they just try to say how much money are we getting to do on that. And we try to tell them, hello bro, or hello team, we are doing that in terms of just for the social welfare. And let me make it very clear, we are not getting any sort of donations or funds from any other organization. We are trying to do it on our own. And talking about me personally, even though I'm serving as a Nepal Unites national communication coordinator, I'm having my own job because I have to serve that, and I'm working it just in terms of a volunteer basis to because I believe to bring in the change in the society through my good works and goodwill, and then whatever is possible through me as a person. So in that note, I believe, as I've already told, Nepal United as a chapter of Global Unites always believe at the same time always believe in the notion of action of the first. So and to that perspective, from our side, we try to work on organizing different thematic workshops and try to give so many leadership training to the people on free of cost, and try to encourage people. And since we're talking about the WITS, I personally also went through that sort of conditions, that sort of devastating situation. So what I try to say is you do not go far beyond to look at the examples, but also look at to me my personal life. Now I'm kind of fight with the situation. I'm always waiting for the better days to come. So I believe that we shouldn't lose hope just because this sort of thing come, because I believe this is a nightmare, and this is definitely will go over very soon. And luckily in our country, the schools are being open now. The life is getting normal. There was a new normal, but it's coming back to the normal situation. So hopefully everything will come better. And since we are working as a team, I guess all of your good wishes are here with us together, and we will fight together to make this world a better place. And that's how we'll be able to overcome this entire situation. So hope for the best. And before ending my statement, I would like to thank this Global Unite Forum to giving us this platform to voice our choices and to let us know the whole world what we are actually going through. I believe sharing is caring, and through this sharing, we would be able to care so many people. So we will just let you know, guys. We just let you know that you guys are not alone. We are united. We are standing, and we will fight together, and one day we will make it better. Yes. So that's all for now, and thank you so much for now.
Thank you so much, Robin. Moan, where are you?
Yes, here.
Yes, please.
Can I start?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes. Before that, thank you, Robin and Espoir. You guys encourage you guys encouragements are very, very useful and inspiring. For me, as a youth activist and Global Unite fellow, I see the foundational 4 pillars of Global Unites as way to solve conflict and as to practice in crisis. Like we've been, and for Myanmar youth, I personally encourage, like we've been practicing the non-violent way, like so-called grassroots movement for example, like street protests and online protests are the best possible things that we can do in the present. And so I encourage each and every youth in the country to participate in your own way in fighting for democracy. And it's important not to repeat cycles of violence like the older generation did in the past. And if we want democracy and we are asking for human rights, we should try not to be the one who break human rights first and who ruin peace. And as Myanmar is already diverse with different religious and political stance, we need to be very careful in fighting for freedom and democracy, and on the way to our revolution. And we must be confident that we, the youth, can bring authentic reconciliation from any crisis or situation if we are going right. And we must also know that every authentic grassroots movement can bring us reforms and changes. And also we need to understand the power of grassroots movement. So and we may think and for Myanmar youth, we may think this our country's situation is really hard, and like to gain democracy is 50-50. But and we may think we are lacking leadership because our leaders are detained. But I want to encourage that it's not true, and we can be the leader of ourselves. And and we can try to be the one that follow with virtues and principles of a good leadership. We can ourselves be the leader that we want to be. It's like I mean, be the change that you want to change. It's like,
Yeah.
and the last, if we don't like to be ruled by dictator who is self-centered and dishonest, so let's not try to be that one, and don't be discouraged. The truth will prevail at the end. And so I just want to end with Mahatma Gandhi words: your belief become your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions, and your action become your habits, values, and your values become your destinies. Yeah, that I just want to end with that Mahatma Gandhi's words. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Nuan. And Henry and Espoir and Robin, you are amazing. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, sharing your encouragement, sharing with us all that is going through, you're going through in your countries. It's not easy, and the work ahead of us is not easy. So, like Robin said, actions speak louder than words. So let's start the fight. Let's be vigilant. Let's stay focused, because as youth, we are the leaders of today, not tomorrow. So we have to start our work right now. If we want a better world, if we want a better Uganda, a better Congo, a better Myanmar, a better Nepal, we have to start the work right now. So thank you so much for being here, for availing yourself, for your time, for your thoughts. We really appreciate you. And to our viewers, we thank you very much for being with us, for watching and for listening in. We do appreciate you. And till the next Global Unites webinar, please stay safe and sanitized. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.